Hi, everyone. We are back with more on personal narratives. We are now on day 3 of week 1, and we have been reading excerpts from Knots and My Yo-Yo String. And so far, we know that a personal narrative is a true story about a person's life. It could be about a special object, such as Mr. Spinelli's gold-plated medal that he won, or an interesting event. The lesson that he learned by playing shortstop was the example that we had. Today, we're going to be talking mainly about including sensory details to help your reader see, smell, taste, and really feel what is happening. And again, our mentor text that we are using is written by Jerry Spinelli. It's called Knots and My Yo-Yo String, the autobiography of a kid. Today, we're going to go back in time with him to George Street in 1950, right outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. George Street. Baseball is still baseball, and school is still school, but George Street is no more. Oh, sure. If you travel to Norristown today and go west on Elm, you'll come to a street sign that says George. Don't believe it. A street sign does not make a street. A time makes a street, and a people of that time. The sign will tell you nothing, nor will the people who live there today. Go ahead, ask them. Ask them whose front steps they better not sit on. Challenge them to a game of chew the peg, flip penknife from shoulder. If it doesn't stick in ground, pull out planted peg with teeth. Or just stand there on the sidewalk outside 802 and close your eyes and listen for the avalanche of coal. Listen for days. You won't hear it. George Street is as gone as 1950. I heard it. I heard it on coal day. Nearly every house on the block had a coal-burning furnace. In a front corner of the cellar, beneath the living room, was a plank-walled bin. It held a ton of coal. When the coal truck came, my job was to run to the cellar and open the window above the bin. The truck turned sideways in the street and backed up to the curb. From under the truck bed, the coal man pulled the chute, which looked like a sliding board, and fed it through the open cellar window and into our bin. He lifted the hatch, and the coal started coming, avalanching down the chute with such a racket that I had to clamp my hands over my ears. I had to tie a hanky around my nose, too, because of that coal dust that made a black, choking blizzard. I would crouch down under the washtub, fold my arms about my head, and wait out the bombardment from the enemy battleship and its 16-inch guns. Or, if I wasn't pretending that day, I simply ran outside. Now, years and years ago, a lot of families' homes were heated primarily with coal, and I challenge you to ask your parents or grandparents about how they heated their homes and what that sounded like and what that felt like when the coal was being delivered. I know my husband's family still has their coal bins in the basement from when their house used to be heated primarily with coal. So the sensory issues or the sensory details that Jerry Spinelli uses here, whenever he's talking about that coal coming down from the chute, he says he lifted the hatch and the coal started coming, avalanching down the chute with such a racket that I had to clamp my hands over my ears. I had to tie a hanky around my nose too because of the coal dust that made a black choking blizzard. That really helps us to know how he felt, what he smelled, the sounds that he heard. He would crouch down under the washtub and fold his arms about his head and wait out the bombardment from the enemy battleship and its 16-inch guns. So that tells us that that must have sounded like a war zone, that the guns were firing. Whenever you are writing about an event from your life, I challenge you to include sensory details. What's the event you're imagining? Where is it happening? What do you see and hear around you? Is